Hello and welcome again to one of our Gems of the Alshich series. As we're coming speedily to the end of the Jewish year, the Sedras, the Parshas, are running out quickly, and we come to the Parsha of Shoftim. Shoftim deals with the establishment of courts and the appointment of judges and the conditions under which justice and judges must operate. So for those who are interested in chapters, it's Deuteronomy and it's chapter 16. And straight away, if we look in our art scroll, we can see exactly what the first pasuk has to tell us. We'll have time for maybe two psukim. Shoftim v'shoitrim, judges and police officers, titan lecho, for yourself, v'kol shorech, and all of the gates, all of the cities, asher Hashem Elokecho, which the Lord your God, Noisin, gives, lecho to you, lishoftecha, for your tribes, different areas of the land of Israel, different cities of Benjamin, cities of Yehuda, cities of Naphtali, the various tribes, and each one of these tribes is a demand that there should be in these polities, these mini polities, that there should be justice and law. V'shavta es ha'am mishpat tzedek, they should judge the people righteously or correctly or honestly, straight, whatever the proper word might be. And then the next verse goes on, in fact, several verses go on to elaborate on this. Lo sata mishpat, don't pervert judgment. Lo sakir ponim, don't recognize one person, don't favor one person over the other, etc., etc. So that's what the pasuk is talking about, the Alshich HaKodesh. He makes brilliant observations here. I'll lead you through them. Let's read the verse again. Shoftim v'shoitrim, titan lecho b'kol sharecha. You have to appoint judges and police officers in all of your cities. So who's the Torah talking to? Can't be talking to the judges. It's clearly talking to the people who appoint the judges. Who appoint judges? Well, the Alshich says it's usually the most powerful. The establishment usually appoints judges. And therefore, category one, we're talking to the people who are the appointers of judges and police officers. Come back to that in a second. Then it says, "V'kol sharecha, know your gates, know your cities. Asher Hashem Elokeichem noisin lecho, lishoftecha, which God has given to each of your tribes." Well, we kind of know that God's given the land of Israel to each of the tribes. V'shavta es ha'am mishpat tzedek, and you will judge the people righteously. Now who's it talking to? Before it was talking about the appointers of judges. Now it's talking about, well, the judges themselves. You will judge the people. Now this is tremendously interesting and very important. The Alshich makes a crucial point here. If something goes wrong when it comes to the appointment of a rabbi or the appointment of any important officer in the Jewish community, whose responsibility is it? Is it the people? Is it the rabbi or the judge, the dayan? Is it his responsibility when he's incapable or corrupt? Or the person who does the appointing? The Alshich says in another place in his commentary of the Chumash, it's the appointers. They're responsible. If the rabbi's not up to the job, well, who appointed him to the job in the first place? But more than that, the Alshich says here that these establishment figures, the movers and shakers, the Yiddish word is machers, the people who make things happen, then it's very important. Shoftim v'shoitrim, judges and policemen, titan lecho. You've got to appoint for yourself. Because it could easily be the case that the person who paid for the process or established the process of selection and got the best judge, well, that was for everybody else. If it somehow comes about, he has to come in front of the judge. Well, I appointed him. Come on. I want a different treatment. I'm the boss. In fact, I remember the previous chief rabbi. He was very close to a very rich and powerful figure who certainly sponsored his campaign to become the chief rabbi. This particular person was very keen that the chief rabbi would be a little bit, or relax the rules in a certain area, which was personally important to him. And he didn't. And the chief rabbi didn't. So this rich and very powerful person wrote a letter to the largest newspaper in the country, Jewish newspaper in the country, and saying quite boldly, and boldly, I appointed him. And now it's time for him to stand down. The chief rabbi at the time referred to this fellow as blowing a fuse, which, as it were, those who know the story, was quite an interesting pun. But it certainly illustrates this is not way back then. This is now. The guys who appoint you, I expect different treatment. Yeah, I appointed you for this, you didn't do this, you're fired. Well, they couldn't fire him. But I think it illustrates that. So the first thing is that the person who is involved in the process of appointing the judge has to be willing to accept the judgment of the judge and the actions of the police officers carrying out the court's decisions. Then it said, and this should be a process, something you will find in every tribe and every tribal area, where every borough of the land of Israel, if you're from New York, which Hashem is giving l'shavtecha. And the question really the Alshich wants to raise here is when it says, V'shotes ha'am, mishpat tzedek, will judge the people. Well, of course they'll judge the people. Who else would he judge? Now remember, God's good at Hebrew. Why did he say, and they would judge the people? They're not going to judge bananas. Obviously they were going to judge the people. What does that extra word say? And the extra word is pointing out the fact that don't think that a court of the tribe of, let's say, Binyamin, cannot judge Jews or should not judge Jews and their behavior in other areas. No, a court in London can try people who've committed crimes in Manchester. A court in Washington, D.C. can judge people who committed crimes in Chicago. Now, that actually is a bit complicated. Not so much in England, but here there are different polities, there are different states in the United States, and therefore it might be legally problematic. It's saying it shouldn't be problematic. Justice has to be universal, affecting everybody. And the judges have to be able to reach out and judge everybody equally. But there's another thing, that's what judge the people, not your people. They will judge the people, mishpat tzedek, righteously. What people? If I'm a judge from the tribe of Binyamin or Naphtali, or Yisachar or Zevulun, I can only judge Zevulunites? No, I can judge anybody. The people, general. But there's another important thing here, which the Alshich points out, and this is something he does, comes back to and refers to a lot. Let's look at the verse again. Shoftim v'shoitrim titim kol b'kol sharecha. Judges and police officers you will establish for yourself throughout the land of Israel. Which God is giving to you, l'shavtecha, for your tribes. Asher Hashem lekecha noisein lecha is giving you. This is an idea I think we probably mentioned before, and it's one of the Alshich repeats a lot. You find that in the book of Ruth, when it says Vayhi, that it was b'mei shvat Shoftim, in the days when the judges judged, Vayhi ra'ov ba'aretz. There was a famine in the land. The word Vayhi, the Alshich points out, always means something bad's going to happen. So what was the bad thing? It will say, well, it was a famine in the land, but it's got its own Vayhi. Vayhi, b'mei shvat Shoftim, Vayhi ra'ov ba'aretz. So what was the first Vayhi referring to? So the Alshich says, Vayhi b'mei shvat Shoftim, the days when they judged their judges. They wouldn't accept the verdict of the court. If the judge says somebody should be punished, they would want to do that punishment, hand that punishment out to the judge. There was anarchy, there's a rejection of the Torah's laws by the Jewish people. But it's only the Torah's laws that keeps the Jewish people anchored to the land of Israel. That's what it's saying here as well. The land of Israel, which God noisein lecha. Noisein is in present tense in Hebrew. If it was in the past tense, the word would say nosan or notan. But here it's noisein. Hashem is giving you the land of Israel. It's an ongoing giving. This is no more controversial, incidentally, than the second paragraph of Judaism's most famous prayer, the Shema. V'hoya im shema tishmal me'asosai. It'll be if you keep my laws, then you get to live in the land of Israel. And if you don't, then as it says there in the second paragraph of the Shema, you will be exited, which has happened to us on several occasions before. Because we only get to live there because we'll keep the Torah's laws. We establish judges and police officers to make sure that those who infringe those laws are suitably dealt with. If we don't have that, then the anchor that keeps us to the land of Israel is gone. So it's always the land of Israel is given, being given, not has been given. It's not a past tense. If it's ours, I suppose we can behave like we want, or however we like there. It's a bit like having a neighbour who's noisy and has parties all night long and drives you crazy. If he owns the house, you're a bit stuck. But if he rents the house, you can get in touch with the landlord, and the landlord can say to the guy, you're infringing the stipulations of your lease or your rental agreement. If you carry on, then you lose it. Same here. The appointment of judges in and of itself, kosher judges, who will judge the people, all the people, equally, and judge them righteously without prejudice and without bias and without bribery, non-corrupt, kosher judges. That is a reflection of the view that the Jewish people have of their right to be in the land of Israel and justifies them being in the land of Israel. A very important thing to bear in mind when the world continues to wail and scream that the Jews have no right to be in the land of Israel. God disagrees, but it's on condition that we take his law seriously, as reflected in the fact that we would look for the best rabbonim, the best dayanim, the best judges to make sure that the Torah law is applied to every Jew equally. Wish you all a very good Shabbos.